It's a pretty wild build, to be honest, and it's not just a single thing that we're looking at here. There was a lot of changes stretched across a couple days, mostly on the PTR, but also on the beta, and we're going to go through all of it today. But the big thing here to notice is that the pre-patch is launching in just a few days. At the time of making this, only 2 days, so we have a lot going on here in this week, and I assume that's why, because they're trying to make sure that everything is as close to where they're going to have it for live when the pre-patch is actually out. But we're going to start with the beta stuff because this is something I did test a lot this week. And if you didn't see us talk about it last week, the Shackle, the Unworthy thing is pretty interesting. So they made some big changes to Blood DK, and might as well get right to it. Now I'm going to read all of these, okay? And then I hope that you guys will give your thoughts on this as well, because frankly, I still don't really understand a lot of it. So Blood Boil went from 30% of attack power to 38.7% of attack power. So 8.7% more attack power scaling. That sounds like a buff, right? But then you have this here, Blood Death Knight. Effect, apply aura, modifies damage and healing done. 29% down to 0%. Now, we talked about this a while back when Guardian Druid had a post something like this in their post where it was like, I think it was like 33% or something. It was very high. And at the time I was like, if this was just a flat 33% buff across the board, we would know, right? Like it would be noticeable in game. I didn't, at the time when we tested Druid, I didn't feel like they did any more damage. And I don't know, maybe that's just 33% is not as big as I think it is, but it didn't feel like it was a buff back then. So this is similar to that in the way it's worded, and I don't really understand what it means. So if you guys do know for sure, like, you know, I've talked to a lot of people who say a bunch of different things, but I don't really understand, you know, why. First of all, like, if it's Blood DK, why do we have Obliterate on here? What is this? This is literally just every single spell in the game that Blood DK could ever possibly use, even if they can't actually use most of these things. I don't understand what this means. But presumably it's true. It's a 29% nerf to every spell in the book. So then it's a small buff to Blood Boil, if that's the case. Again, there's another one, periodic damage and healing this time instead of direct damage and healing, I guess. But then there's also modifies damage and healing done, Death Strike and Death Strike offhand, which obviously they don't have that. So that's a 29% buff there, which just undoes this 29% nerf. I don't know. So basically, I think it's a net neutral change to Death Strike on this front, because it says modifies damage and healing done. This says modifies damage and healing done. So it's so confusing. So presumably Death Strike does not do more or less healing. It's the same. Is that right? 80% to 109%. I just don't understand how these percentages work. Like if it says 0%, but then we also have 109%. 109% of 0% is 0, right? I've trust me, not what I want to be talking about. But anyway, Death Caress also went from 14.742% to 19.017%. So that's a nice buff there, I guess. Hard Strike, again, 24 to 31, which was already one of our top damage considering the conduit. And then Marrow Rend, 37 to 48. And also Bone Storm, 15 to 19. But again, if that's after a 29% nerf to everything, it just doesn't make any sense. So like you're telling me that they nerfed Blood DK's damage by like what, like 10 or more percent across the board, depending on how many times. Again, it depends on, is Death Strike doing less damage? Is it doing the same? I don't know. They basically buffed a bunch of these spells, but not anywhere near as much as they nerfed, if that aura is actually what that is. I really don't. I have no idea, honestly. And I did keys this weekend on DK, and I did like the exact same damage that I always did. So I have no idea. The only thing that I would say is that Death Strike's healing was like way higher than it used to be. It used to be about 35 to 40%. And then now it was over 50% of my healing on some keys. So I don't know. I don't know. I really don't understand what that means. If anybody is like confident that they know what it means, I'd love to have a conversation about it. But anyway, there's been a bunch of other changes to DK stuff that we're going to get to. This is an interesting change right here, okay? This might be one of the more interesting changes. Death Certainty, Death Strike, and Death Coil deal, instead of 10% increased damage, 20% increased damage, and reduce the remaining cooldown on the blah, blah, blah. So whatever, you know, they buff the damage, but I'm just thinking about this legendary now for the first time. So I think seeing something like this is cool. Because if you know me, especially in Legion, I love the fact that a lot of legendaries could be used for specs that they weren't designed for. And that seemingly is going to be the exact same way in Shadowlands. So we tested this legendary out this weekend. The problem is I did it on a Kyrian DK, so it's kind of pointless. But I'm thinking, after we talked about the Death's Due changes, okay, well, a nice little buff to Deathstrike here never hurts. And also, you know, you can get, quite a few seconds. You can get probably 6 seconds off. Especially, you know, with what we got going on with the runic power pooling now. You can easily get 3 Death Strikes off every time you drop D&D. So is that a good thing or is that a bad thing? I don't know. I feel like this legendary might be on the radar now. Mostly also because... Did I miss that? They nerfed... Where's Pheromones? They nerfed Pheromones. Is that not here? Guys, there's so many freaking posts. I've lost track of all of them at this point. Maybe that was last week. But anyway, they nerf Pheromone. Yeah, here it is. Here it is. They nerf Pheromones. Your minion gained 10% haste. Now it's 5% haste. But then there was a... Do I even have that up anymore? No, there's a post that says, hey, listen, we think we are undershooting the legendary strengths. So we're going to retune a lot of this. Now, I don't know if they mean like they're satisfied with the ones they already made, but more are coming. Or if they're like, wait... This is actually going to get buffed instead of nerfed. It's just 5% now, but it's going to be going up instead. I don't know. I have no idea. But for me, I would think it would be a good idea to buff them because it's like you can only wear 1 legendary. So if there's some legendaries that are just completely non-factoring into class thought, then it's like, no, you need to buff the hell out of that, right? So anyway, yeah, Pheromones. You saw me in 5-man, so hopefully using this exclusively. It was really powerful. And again, I still don't understand it, but I was actually gaining more than 10% haste. Like, I think it was like over 11% haste every time I dropped D&D. So, who knows? I don't... At this point, it's just a miasma of math that I'll never figure out. But the big change this week, though, for what I wanted to test was the Shackle the Unworthy nerf. So, admonish the target for your past transgressions, or change, let's put it that way. Reducing the damage they deal to you by 5% and dealing less attack power damage. A lot less. Pretty big nerf there, okay? Now, if you watched Tuesday's stream of Blood DK, you saw Shackle the Unworthy was easily my top damage on most dungeons. And that's, again, me not really trying to spread it very well at all. Just doing the best I can with it. But the problem at the time was they had a conduit that did absolutely nothing. Because it had a 2% chance to spread to a nearby enemy each time it deals damage. That's horrible. That was always bad. That needed to be way higher. It was going to get to 10%, but still terrible. But so they just removed that. When they made it now, you can spread it by hitting it with a damaging attack, which I'm pretty sure I covered last week. I don't know. My head's spinning from all this. I'm pretty sure I covered that last week. So anyway, yeah, it's fine. I think it's actually pretty good for 5-mans, honestly. But now with this conduit, I'm even more excited to see it because it makes the duration increase by 3 seconds. Now, there's another change that seemingly has happened here. For the last time we tested it, if I like made it go to a new target, if it's, I think it lasts like 10 seconds or something. I can't remember. 14 seconds, okay? So it would last 14 seconds on the new target as well. I'm 90% sure that's how it was working. If I transferred it from a target, no matter what duration that was on that target, it would now be 14 seconds on the new target. I'm again, 90% sure that's not how it's working now. It's the duration is increased by 3 seconds, I think, for this still. It's so hard to tell because it's so difficult to get it to jump when you want it. But anyway, yeah, I'm pretty sure that's how it works. And it's now the duration that it was when it copied it. So if it's got 5 seconds left, it's going to go to 8 seconds on the new target. But that's not very good anymore. It used to be like you could actually wait to copy it, and then you'd be able to bounce it back and forth on 2 targets over and over again, and it'd be up 100% of the time. So obviously that's way worse. It makes complete sense, though, because if you can keep it up 100% of the time, then the ability has no purpose. So this is going to make it a lot harder to do that, presumably impossible to do that, but it can be done, I'm sure. I don't know how any of that works. The thing is, its damage has been increased. So it was nerfed from 201 to 178, but the baseline is 10% more, and it goes all the way up to 24%. Now, unfortunately, I wasn't able to test that properly because I only have rank 1 of the conduit. I've never seen it drop at a higher rank yet, so I don't have that. But it was definitely a big loss in damage there. Like, this ability is way less damage. And that was one of the only reasons I was considering it. Because I was like, well, I really like Death's Due. I really like Night Fae. I really like everything they have. But the little owl dude's potion was actually really good for necrotic, which I absolutely can't stand necrotic. It seemed like it was gonna be good for raiding too. Shackle and Unworthy's damage was like pretty good. You know what I mean? It's not great, but it's good. And it was like getting better for 5-mans too. So I was like, I really like Kyrian. Maybe I'd consider this Covenant. Well, now they've nerfed the damage, presumably. I mean, it's eventually gonna get back to where it was, I guess, but not right now. And they made it a lot worse, I think, overall. So I don't think I would use Kyrian again. I don't know. I feel like Kyrian is a really bad Covenant, but it has some really good soul binds, so it's like, it's crazy. I don't know. So anyway, let me know what you guys think about the Blood DK stuff. I don't know what this is. I've read it like 5 times, and I don't understand what I'm reading. Again, I don't. The only thing that seems to be missing is a heavy mist surrounds you, increasing your dodge, right? I mean, I really just don't. I don't even know what I'm looking at anymore. There's so much words, so many math, like numbers on the screen. I guess it does more damage now as well, 25%. It was 20%. Yeah, and it's still, you still get bone shields. I have no idea. But anyway, I probably won't be going Necrolord, let's put it that way. So I haven't really thought about it too much, but anyway, let's move on. We got a lot of other stuff to talk about. Actually, before we do, I want to switch over to this post real quick. If you guys didn't see this, it was a pretty interesting thing. It's not really necessarily that big of a deal for Blood DK, but apparently for Frost DK, this is a really big deal. Yeah, under normal circumstances, off balance should never come into play as changing weapons in combat. But with Frost DK, able to both dual wield and use two-handed weapons, we can presume this is intended to stop Frost DKs from using weapon swap macros to make use of 4 different rune forges in 2 different dual wield setups, which is jokingly being called 4-handed frost. Yeah, I've heard people talk about this 4-handed frost, and it was actually like very powerful, like quite viable. And now you see these people saying like, oh, well, that's it, Frost DK is no longer viable. It's crazy. But anyway, what they did is if you switch, yeah, off balance, recently removed your weapon and are unable to benefit from Rune Forge and Chance. Because there's so many Rune Forges now, like you could viably switch between them at a moment's notice and get a massive buff. So it's actually a big deal for Blood DK too, I guess, because a lot of people were using Rune of Sanguination. And then, is this that one? I don't know, they were switching to the one that makes it so... Oh no, this is the one that they were switching to. I don't know the names very well right now. But anyway, yeah, you'd switch to the one that's like an execute one. It does a lot more damage. I know, I quite like that one anyway, to be honest. So there's so much going on, it's hard to follow it all. But anyway, there's no longer possible. It says a short period of time. It's, I guess, 30 seconds only. So it's not really that big of a deal. But obviously in 5-mans, I don't know, like apparently you could switch weapons in 5-mans too. I literally did not even know that was the case. I don't know when they changed that, but apparently you can. Demon Hunter had a small change. I don't know how big of a deal this is, but instead of just attack speed by 10%, it's now haste by 10% for Fodder to the Flame, which is the Necrolord Covenant ability. That's a much better buff. I mean, that's way better, 10% haste. I mean, that could be a really big deal for Vengeance too. Obviously, the more haste you have, the more cooldown reduction you have on your main defensive stuff. But I don't know if anybody would even consider that. They have so many strong... Vengeance has like 2 extremely powerful ones, so I don't know how many people would consider it. Also, it looks like meta's been made baseline, I guess. I just don't. I don't know what to say at this point. Anyway, Balanced Druid does, who cares? Nobody does any Balanced Druid. But this is one that I want to talk about, Ravenous Frenzy. This is an ability, we actually talked a lot about this. This is probably the 4th or 5th time I'm bringing this up in this series. At first, I was extremely critical of this ability. I said this is the dumbest freaking idea ever. It's still the dumbest idea ever. It's the only Covenant ability in the game that there's a detriment for using poorly. Like, let's put it this way. If I put down Death and Decay and I don't hit any targets, I don't get stunned. Yeah, I don't take damage because of that. Like, that's so stupid. Who came up with this? Why is this still in the game? It doesn't make any freaking sense at all. But they made it now 2 seconds idle instead of 1.5 seconds. And if you're joining this conversation for the first time, idle just means you're not doing any globals. So even if you didn't hit anything, I'm pretty sure it still counted I'm not 100% sure on that. But for example, there was phases where there was, that might not actually be true. You might have to actually deal damage because there was we were doing 5-mans with balanced druids and they were getting stunned all the time. Sizewell was one of them. Maybe he'll comment. I don't know, but it was like literally like there was nothing he can do. Like he used the ability and the boss either went immune or ran away or something like that. It's like that's it. Like yeah, I'm stunned. It's over. You know what I mean? So it's really really stupid idea. But anyway, they made it 2 seconds, which is definitely better. But after the changes they made last few weeks, I don't know. Okay, so Monk. This is another interesting set of changes. Charred Passions, legendary item, very buffed. 40% increase on that, or whatever. 40% more. It's up to 70%. Your Breath of Fire ignites your right leg in flame, causing your blackout kick and spinning crane kick to deal 70% additional damage as fire. That's pretty good. Brewmaster definitely has a bit of a threat problem, I would say, and also a damage problem overall. So maybe that helps. The problem is they nerfed the main legendary. Keg Smash deals 15% additional damage and has 1 additional charge. And that was with the Keg Smash legendary, which is your main damage. It's like top DPS by a mile. Keg Smash, 15% extra damage instead of 30. So it makes me think like they're trying to make this into a more less dominant legendary, which they're not going to do because unless they remove its 1 additional charge, it's always going to be extremely good for everything Brewmaster does. And they also nerfed Xiaohao's Might, which I thought was a really good one for Brewmaster 2 in some states. So 50% less on that too. But it also helps. It's kind of like a poor man's version of this one, I feel like. It's just kind of worse, I think, in every way. But, you know, big damage increase and also getting extra brews. You know, time off your brews is always nice. I think there's other changes. I don't remember now. It's Tiger Palm. Oh, yeah, this is the one that's for Windwalker, I believe. 10-yard range, dash to the target. Also applies effects which increase your critical strike chance up to 60%. But now it's only 1 minute per target. This effect cannot be applied more than once every 1 minute per target. So I'd used this a bunch early in the beta. It's kind of cool, dashing to your target as a Brewmaster. It's actually quite neat. You could like kind of dash all over the place. But since you're the Brewmaster, like it's probably decent for Windwalker. But for Brewmaster, it's like, no, the mobs are just in melee range, so I'm not going anywhere. Kind of pointless. And then they buffed Weapons of Order, but seemingly only for Mistweaver. I can't tell. This is a cool change, though. Fatal Touch reduces Touch of Death by 120, presumably, seconds. That's quite cool. I really like Touch of Death. It's actually one of the main reasons I like Brewmaster in Shadowlands. So I don't know about that legendary, but it's quite interesting. An interesting concept. They also buffed this Invoker's Delight, 20% haste for 20 seconds instead of 12 for 15 after you summon your Celestial, which every spec has the Celestial now. Brewmaster has the Ox. Not the most powerful thing in the game, but pretty cool. Small change to Protection Paladin as well. Vanquisher's Hammer. This Conduit is a big nerf, presumably. Yeah, huge nerf. Heals you for the damage done. So this is a really big nerf. This could have probably been really powerful self-healing, but I don't necessarily know. I've never actually used Vanquisher's Hammer, so I don't even know how that works. But yeah, it was going to be 100% all the way up to 250, and now the maximum is 120, so that's huge. And then Warrior had very, very, very small change. 1 single legendary now does less damage for Prot specifically. So for Fury, it does 100, like the normal damage it did. If Whirlwind hits 3 or more targets, it hits an enemy an additional time for 100% damage. Arms, it does for 60% damage. And for Protection, it does 30% damage. So that's another huge nerf to Warriors legendaries, which is crazy because, I don't know, I feel like Warriors in a weird place. Okay, now we're moving on. This is Ptr Hot Fixes. Bunch of changes to Frost and Unholy DK, which we're not going to cover. Feral Druid got if what we were talking about before is true, they get a 5% nerf or buff. But they made a change to Pulverize, okay? 35%. This is a talent that I really wish was just not in the game, honestly. We talked about this a couple weeks ago, but I think they should just make Pulverize either baseline. They should make one of these. I actually have Druid on the screen right now. They should make either Tooth and Claw or Pulverize baseline. They compete in too many similar ways. It's just not a good idea. I don't like this both being in the game. I think they should make Pulverize a actual passive that like Bear gets. I used to say Tooth and Claw should just be rank 2 Maul, but the more I think about it, I'd say Pulverize and maybe bring back a talent that was removed. But it's interesting. You're going to see something here. Devastating Blow that consumes 2 stacks of Thrash, blah, blah, blah. 35%. Cooldown changed from 30 seconds to 45 seconds. Now we're back in game. 30-second cooldown, not 45. And it says 20% instead of 35%. So these are PTR specific changes, okay? And I don't necessarily know why that's the case or what that means. We did talk about this a bunch as well. If you follow back, I think it was MOP into WAD beta, PTR, etc. They were basically retuning classes for PTR only, or for pre-patch only, and then they undid them all for the actual launch of the game. I don't know. Is that what's going to happen? I doubt it. But they are developing these two separately. If you haven't heard, there's a 9.0.1 and a 9.0.2. So they're separate patches. So that's why there's changes here, I think. But Sanctified Wrath is wholly only. So bunch of stuff here that's like, yeah, I don't know. I mean, they changed Relic of the Past. I don't know. I don't know if that's actually for all of these, you know, for everything. But okay, here's another big change. If you guys aren't unaware, not necessarily tank specific, but if you're unaware, secondary stats now have a cap. Thank you, Corruption. Although to be fair, Legion got pretty out of control too. So what it used to be was, here, let's just read this. This is all you need to see. If you have a 0 to 25% of a secondary stat, there is no penalty. From 25 to 34, you get 10% less, right? Diminishing returns. So from the same amount, you get 10% less, which I don't necessarily understand when you're talking about these percentage thresholds, but I assume that's calculated after the penalty, right? 34% to 42%, 20% penalty. 42 to 49 is 30. 49 to 106 is 40% penalty. And then if somehow you manage to get over 100%, 106%, I still don't understand how that's even possible, but I know classes do it. I don't know what it even means for a class, for something like crit. But anyway, 100 or 106, you cannot gain any more. Literally no value for the stat. But they changed that. Now it's 0 to 30, there's no penalty, which is a lot better. I was already at 25% stats as Blood DK in the first tier of the expansion. So I think this is not going to work. I don't know what they're going for here, but like, I can't necessarily control my secondary stats like this. You know what I mean? Like, unless they're going to add more corruption type systems to the game, which maybe they are, and that's why they're doing it. I mean, I'm just getting the gear that I have, right? Like, it actually confuses item level. It makes, like, getting upgrades harder, I think. I don't know. But so anyway, it was changed from 0 to 30, 30 to 39, which is fairly sizable, 39 to 47. It extrapolates all the way to 126% now, so I don't know. But it's nice out of the gate. I feel like 30% is a lot more wiggle room. But this basically means we're going to get less strong as the expansion goes on, or more so, item level is going to be more. Strength and stamina and armor are going to be even more important as the expansion goes on for Blood DK. But again, if I have like 5% crit, you know what I mean, and I get a piece that has haste verse on it, it's like those are the stats I have the most of. It's like maybe I should need to get crit now at this point. It's just it's a little bit too confusing. I don't think it's going to work out the way they wanted to. Sadly, the game just doesn't work out the way they ever wanted to, but that's just how it goes. Okay, so here's another PTR hot fix. Reverse harm has been nerfed, but this is pretty much only relevant for the situation with the essence in BFA. Then expel harm has been changed, but Brewmaster doesn't even use chi, right? Don't think so. Nothing else in here, is there? Some fury changes again. Doesn't matter. None of that matters. So these are just another hot fix that you need to be aware of. That's like buffed Strive for Perfection by a lot, I think. Anyway, more changes. Another one. Here we go. Druid again. Another balanced Druid change. Soul of the Forest. This is for balance only, no matter. Here we go. Frenzied Regen. Heals you for 18%? No, 24% now. I'm pretty sure this is how it is. I'm just so lost at this point. There's so many changes. I'm pretty sure this is back to how it is in BFA, right? Or is it even higher still? 24%. What is it actually in BFA? I think it's 30% or something, isn't it? We should check, obviously, and we will. It is, wait, that's BFA. 18%? I don't know. I'm so confused. But anyway, yeah, they changed it to 24%. Now, the reason I'm making a big deal about this, even though I have no idea what I'm talking about, is because this is in the game. Okay, so we're back on Druid. Look, it's in the game, even though it says it's a Ptr Hot Fix. See? Ptr Hot Fix, October 7th. That's a few days ago now. This is in the game. Heals you for 24% health. But I don't know. I was under the impression that I don't remember the values at this point, honestly. It's getting a little hard to remember all this stuff, to be honest. I'm going to have to watch my own videos to remember when they changed some of these things. But anyway, more changes. Brewmaster. Cooldown reduced by 4 minutes. Oh, that's for Windwalker only. But for here, Brewmaster. Cooldown changed from 7 minutes to 6 minutes. I mean, that's kind of a big deal, right? Considering this is such a long CD. The only way it's used very well is by seeing, you know, it reduced substantially. Let me check something, actually. It's reduced substantially because of Keg Smash and all that, you know what I'm saying? So that's pretty nice. There should be like a change log, right? Yeah, there it is. Okay, we could see from the beginning. Where's the beginning of 9.0? 18%. It's been 18 the whole time? 8.2. Makes it look like it was 18% at some point and 8.2 and onward. But at some point it was 24. 18. 24. Confused. 24. So I think in BFA it is higher, and now it's presumably not lower again. But anyway, the only thing that matters is what happens when the game launches, and seemingly that's going to be 24%. So on top of all the changes that they've made to Druid, it's starting to look really good. If any of this matters, it's starting to look pretty good. I'm really liking Druid, and I think I'm going to be playing a lot next expansion. They also changed like a bunch of Paladin, not necessarily tank stuff, but yeah, some relatively interesting stuff. I don't know. They've made Word of Glory 30% higher for Ret. Like, these are big changes, so we'll see if this matters, if this is actually a thing. But yeah, nothing for Warrior, so that's actually it. So let me know. We have a lot of stuff going on here. It's hard to follow it all, frankly. And if you're looking for something to catch yourself up, here's a good... I'm going to put this in the description for sure, the patch notes. These are the patch notes. I would say if you're somehow just hearing about any of these changes for the first time, go read this post. Look, first of all, look at how long this is. That's long. There's a lot of stuff here for just DK, okay? So you could look at Blood. Rune Tap's no longer a talent. Will be learned by all DKs at level 19. Oh, that's interesting. Level 19. Following talents have been readjusted. Relish and Blood. Blah, blah, blah. I mean, have been adjusted. These aren't even talents. This is a brand new thing. Death Pack returning. It's pretty shit, but yeah, whatever. So yeah, I mean, these are... It outlines everything that I've been covering for the last 6 months now. You could just read it. Obviously, there's a lot more going on, things that are not necessarily written here, but like you could see Guardian Druid. Let's see Guardian Druid. Does it say anything? Frenzied Regen. No, just talking about Berserk. Yeah, literally no talk about Frenzied Regen. So it's like, okay, I don't know. You can go through it yourself and let me know what you think. So main thing I'd love to hear you guys' comment on this week is about these DPS changes. Is it a change at all? I don't even know. Like I said, I did keys last week on Tuesday, and I did keys, like, you know, Tuesday was the previous build still, and I did keys this week. I did the exact same amount of damage I did back to back. And, oh, actually, that's interesting. I didn't even really think about that until right now. Even though I did like 1.5k in Tuesday and 1.5k in on Saturday, they nerfed the one ability, right? What's Convoke, whatever it's called, Shackle the Unworthy. They nerfed that. It's like, oh, I don't know. I don't know what to think. Let me know what you think.